Be me. Last summer. Be visiting elderly mother on Isle of Skye. Lives in remote, tiny village on Sleat Peninsula. Driving to town on main road to get shopping for her. Nice day. Occasional gusty winds. About 1 p.m. Road is quiet. Only me driving. Hear sudden rush of wind noise on my right side. Sounds exactly like a car overtaking me at high speed. Think nothing of it. Funny gust of wind is all. Get shopping in town. Return to mother's house. Unpacking shopping. Jokingly say, LOL, I got overtaken by a ghost car. Mother freezes. Where, Anon? Did you see it? Were its headlights on? WTF.png. Explain it was just a funny gust of wind that sounded like a car passing me. Mother explains that for decades on Sleat Road, the locals have known about a ghost car. Usually at night, they see headlights coming. Pull over to side of road and passing place to let it by. Single track road until about 15 years ago. Wait ages. Headlights disappear. A couple of people got run off the road by it. Headlights appear behind them coming at speed. About to hit them. They swerve onto grass to avoid collision. Get stuck on soft mud. No car passes. No headlights. This has been happening there since the 1950s. Drive that road regularly. Never hear gust of wind like that again. Not so sure it wasn't the ghost car now. Be me. Mexican. Be part of the army for at least 7 years. Patrolling and being stationed at bases most of the time. Really trying to apply to a different branch many times. Similar to Spec Ops or Special Forces, but shittier because Mexico. Be accepted and assigned my first mission in new unit. We're tasked to survey an area that was used as lab to cook hardcore drugs up in the mountains. Place was raided and dismantled a few years ago, but as always happens, they seem to be back as it's a good spot. A small unit of 5 must watch the area and report back if we spot cartel activity. They always cook late night. However, we must survey the area all night from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. There are 2 locations that need to be watched during those hours. A structure previously used as the lab, and the main path they used to get there, both built by cartels. Sergeant stays at camp, recording and reporting activity, and the other 2 survey those 2 areas from 7 to 7. Next day, the 2 rotate and survey. Night 4 out of 7 till next patrol comes. Nothing at all. Bored AF. My expectations for this unit were too high. Surveying the structure mentioned from a safe distance. About 2 a.m., radio checks each hour. Guy surveilling the main path calls in, says he got something. Guy surveilling asks to change radio channel so they can chat privately. A couple minutes pass, and Sergeant says he is sending the other 2 as backup. I am puzzled and confused. Asked why and if we should expect combat. Sergeant says it is protocol. I don't recall that protocol. As far as I know, we should just watch and report. About an hour or so, the other guy arrives. I continue the surveillance while he randomly checks the surroundings. The night passes. There is nothing to report. Night 5 of 7, I'm staying at camp. Night 6 of 7, I'm surveying the structure again. Late night, around 3 to 4 a.m. The forest goes dead silent. Hear some noises, whispers, tree leaves breaking. I feel something is watching me. I better check it. I'm up in a tree on a platform installed by the previous team. We use a rope ladder to get in and down. We're not supposed to use our flashlight during the night, so we don't reveal our position. I'm trying to see what is making that noise with just my eyes. Whispering and movement increases below. Now I can even distinguish some words. Something like, perhaps we should, and some creepy jingling. I'm shitting my pants at this point. It's not wildlife. I yell, I am military and have a gun. I have permission to use lethal force, etc. Voices just laugh in a creepy tone. They are just below the tree. F it. I'm using my flashlight. I need to see what I'm dealing with. I point my flashlight to where the voices should be, and I can see shadows moving really fast away from the light. Keep trying to reach them with the light. Hear a whistle and a "Hey!" coming from the opposite side I am looking at. Point my flashlight. See a creepy man smiling at me. He is as pale as a paper sheet. He is really tall. His eyes are sunk deep in his sockets. It almost looks like he had no eyes. As I am pointing the flashlight from his toes to his head, he just vanishes. Noises stop completely, but the forest is still silent. I'm so scared I can't even move. I manage to use the radio. I am so I can barely speak. Sergeant notices it immediately and says, "We are on our way." They arrive and help me get to the camp. Surveillance is canceled. I'm feeling very exhausted, but no way in hell I am sleeping. No one asks what I saw or what happened. They just tell me to rest, and that we will be gone from there soon. I am able to get some sleep at dawn. Night 7 of 7, I am staying at camp. Surveillance is resumed like nothing happened last night. Next day, the other team arrives at camp. Sergeants talk and exchange information. We leave. Walk for several hours till we reach the pickup location. We are transported to main base. The other guys just talked about normal shit. As I'm new, I'm afraid and hesitant to ask about the incident. 6 months later, I get to know 2 guys from the same unit. They were not part of the same surveillance operation. We are at a bar talking, so I tell them what happened. In their opinion, they do not look surprised at all. They basically explain to me that it is common in that kind of operation to see weird stuff when the Army raids their crops, labs, training camps, houses, etc. They often report similar things. According to them, cartels pay huge amounts to shamans or witches alike to protect their lands from the Army, to keep them away, and to know when the Army or police is on their asses. I cannot fully believe that, but here, it is often talked among the military. At this point, I have heard many similar stories. "22 years old at the time. Turkey hunting in the woods. Find small lane to watch on the edge of a valley where I've bagged turkey before. Army Corps land, but so far in, I seldom see/hear/meet other hunters. Get cozy with a mat and pillow against a tree and wait for hours after hiking a ways from my small camp. You aren't supposed to set up a tent or build a fire out there, so I just made a small shelter out of fallen wood and leaves to hide my extra stuff. Hear what sounds like mumbling coming from the ridge behind me. After a while it stops, but I hear it again off to the left of where I'm sitting. Occasional twig snap or leaf crunch from that same direction. See 5 men on the ridgeline to the left. One is carrying the backpack I stashed with my rations and hiking gear. One has a pair of binoculars out, scanning the valley, including where I'm waiting. They have rifles, machetes, and one has a backpack with a frame, the kind that costs a lot of money. 2 look homeless, unkempt, and methed out. 2 others look what I'd call average. The last one, the one with binoculars, has darker skin and looks grizzled as I don't move an inch after tilting my head to see them. Keep my shotgun under my arm so it doesn't stick out. They wait on that ridge for about an hour talking, then start walking down into the valley towards the shooting lane. One of the tweaker-looking ones calls out for whoever is there to come out. I finally tilt my head back down towards the lane to watch them more. Realize they're all wearing backpacks, except they all look empty. After some time, they walk up the opposite side of the valley and start searching/talking again. I let them get further into the woods and take my opportunity to leave. Get worried they left someone guarding my camp area and take an alternate path out towards the road and clearing where I'd parked, but it's about an hour-long hike away. Take a break after about 20 minutes and notice a footpath intersects the area I've been trudging through. It doesn't look like a deer path, and there are beer bottles/cans scattered along it. I follow it a little ways and notice that there is some kind of rotten lattice laying in the footpath. It's a crappy punji pit trap, complete with metal spikes buried in the ground. Get off path, and my hat snags on a piece of fishing line towards the edge. Panic and slowly untangle myself. It's some kind of marker hanging from a limb, and not another booby trap. Decide this is too dangerous and cut back towards my camp area. Sure enough, as I close in, I can see a red baseball cap and hear some kind of music playing from a phone. F.that.jpg. I was afraid to make noise, so I just hunkered down and waited. About an hour later, and his buddies came back. 2 of them were speaking some kind of Spanish, and now their backpacks were full. They walk off from my camp heading towards the path I wandered off, and walk within 10 to 15 yards of me. Thank God my camel was good enough that they meandered right past. Part way to the footpath, they discard empty camp fuel tins and a backpack full of God knows what. I wait till it's almost dark and shamble as quietly as I can during dusk towards where I parked. At this point, I was thirsty, hungry, and my nerves were racked. Finally get to my truck and hightail it out of there at dark. 2 vehicles were parked at the exit of the inlet road. They must have missed my truck hidden in the clearing, but waited at the only exit. The 2 vehicles start pulling out and turning to follow me so quickly, they didn't even turn their lights on for a good minute. I gun it, and figure either they'll kill me, or wrecking off of the gravel road will. My shitty Ford Ranger is having trouble outrunning them. They are gaining and now it's dark, so it's getting harder to stay on the road. Turn my lights off and madly weave down other dirt and gravel roads that I'm only vaguely familiar with, praying to God that I don't accidentally hit a dead end. Slap into a low water crossing, and the creek flowing over it almost washes me into the stream. The car behind me bottoms out and stops. The other vehicle looked like a Jeep, and powered through without missing a beat. Make it to pavement with the Jeep still hot on my tail. Not quite close enough to read my plates, but close enough that I'm starting to sweat. The Jeep flashing a floodlight in his high beams and starts gaining on me once again. See blue lights burst into life behind me. Huh? They are hanging some kind of eBay mock police light out the passenger window to get me to stop. F you, F that, F this. Still about 35 minutes from the nearest town. Slam the gas pedal to the floor and push my truck to its max speed on a straightaway. Feather the brakes when I'm just out of sight of the Jeep, and haphazardly turn down a random road. Pull into a dirt road and slam my brakes because I almost hit a building. I just flew up someone's driveway and cut a huge rut trying to stop. I kill the engine and wait. See the family inside peeking out a window, and no doubt grabbing a shotgun to come see what I'm all about. Oh God, oh please don't turn on your porch light. Porch light comes on, but I still don't hear or see the Jeep. 2 men come out of the building, and sure enough, one is holding a tactical shotgun. Roll my window down and tell them someone had road rage and tried to run me off the road. They buy it and offer to call a sheriff. Tell them to just leave me their name and phone and I'd come fix their driveway tomorrow, and that if they don't mind, I'll collect my senses, then head out. They are chill AF, and just relieved that I'm not a maniac or drunk driver. Leave about 30 minutes later, and never return to that spot. Half a year later, sheriffs and some kind of DEA bigwigs bust a huge meth camp out in the middle of the woods. Only caught it because the meth heads cornered and threatened to kill a local who went that way looking for rocks and arrowheads. The headline came and went, and now rangers randomly putter down those back roads. People are still finding booby traps and backpacks full of meth refuse and trash. Fourth of July. Sitting in backyard with my dad watching fireworks and talking. It's about 11, so my dad has drank about a half a bottle of tequila. Conversation turns towards camping and crazy experiences. Says it was about the late 70s, maybe early 80s. Out camping with his ex-wife, brother-in-law, and his brother-in-law's friend. Dad used to have a lot of cool older guns before he either traded them or sold them. On this particular trip, he had his old Winchester .30-30, some kind of older Ruger revolver he couldn't remember which, and last but not least, his prized M1A1 carbine, which he said he will be buried with. My dad served in Vietnam, so ever since he is an extremely light sleeper. On the third and final night, he said he woke up to the sound of distant pops. Said it sounded like someone unloading a pistol or small caliber into the air, maybe a half-mile away. He slipped his boots on and slid out of his tent with his carbine in his hands. His brother-in-law was already outside looking in the direction of the shots. "Did you hear that?" he asked. "Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just some idiot," my dad replied. Brother-in-law goes back inside tent. Dad is already awake at this point, so he goes to take a piss. While walking away from the site, he put his ear out just to see if he could hear any more shots. He could hear something, but it wasn't shots. It was something moving quickly through the woods. He froze and crouched down near the tree he was by. Dad looks around, and after a minute sees a figure running through the woods in the moonlight. Not at him, but passing him, maybe 100 feet in front of him. He didn't notice my dad at all, and just kept running until my dad couldn't hear or see him anymore. He said whoever it was running like their life depended on it, running into branches and trees, and not stopping even though he was obviously getting tore up. Bang! My dad jumps a little. Another shot, maybe a rifle, but this time much closer. Dad's heart drops, quickly turns around, and moves back towards his campsite. When he gets back, everyone is awake. My dad is low to the ground, moving quickly, grabs his bag he has his Winchester and Ruger in, and tells everyone they need to leave now. Everyone sees how serious he is. My dad is always the jackass jokester. Said they all looked terrified. He kind of chuckled to himself while telling me that part. More shots rang out. Said it sounded like they had decided since they didn't have the element of surprise, they said "F it." Multiple mag dumps. They all quickly left the camp, headed up the hills, and got as high as they could. Multiple shooters at this point. The moon was out, so they could see a little bit, but it was still very dark. When they got to just about the top of this small mountain, he said they stopped. When they looked down at the forest, they could see all sorts of fires, torches as well as campfires, and maybe even lighting tents on fire. Spend the next few hours up there until it was light enough to head back down. When they found their camp, all their stuff had been gone through, and their tents were just smoldering ashes on the ground now. They hiked out and found a bunch of other campsites which resembled the same as theirs. Never saw anyone, but there were drag marks on the ground. Said he assumed whoever they were, they must have collected the bodies after they killed them. When they finally got back to my dad's van, he said there was a group of about 13 other people in the parking lot. Everyone was dirty and tired. He could tell these people had escaped as well. All the tires had been slashed. Everyone looked terrified. One guy had been hit in the shoulder with birdshot. Another girl had a broken wrist from falling while she ran. Most of them were whole groups who ran off after hearing shots. Said after talking with them, only 3 people were missing from the whole group. Eventually a ranger came out and was completely surprised to see everyone. My dad said he seemed like when he pulled up, this guy looked like he wasn't expecting to see anyone. He called in some more rangers, and after about 3 hours, everyone got a ride out of there back to town. The police made a report, but my dad said nothing really came of it. Eventually, he was able to get his van towed out. Nothing in the news, or even in the newspapers about the incident.